This is a SnapEd New York video presentation.
Hi, I'm Caitlin, SnapEd educator with Cornell Cooperative Extension, and today I'll be showing you how to make tasty taco rice salad. We'll also be talking about the protein food group and dietary fat. Protein is an essential nutrient needed to help us grow and maintain our bodies. It functions as the building blocks for bones, muscles, skin, and so much more. Most Americans actually do get enough protein, but may need to make leaner and more varied selections. The MyPlate suggests choosing lean meats, seafood, and plant-based proteins like beans, peas, and nuts. For today's recipe, we will need 1 pound of lean ground meat. To be considered lean or low fat, the product has to be 92% lean with only 8% fat. Poultry like skinless chicken or turkey tend to be leaner options than beef or pork. Today, I'll be using lean ground turkey. For an even lower fat option, you can also choose a plant-based protein like kidney beans or black beans. Beans are a good substitute or supplement to meat. That's because they are part of the vegetable and protein group, so you're gonna get some nutrients from both, including fiber, which is not found in animal products. We'll also be adding 1 cup of onions, 3 cups of tomatoes, 2 cups of lettuce, and 1 jalapeno. These vegetables will boost the nutrient content without adding too many extra calories. They'll also add a lot more flavor too. To add even more flavor, we are skipping the salt and adding chili powder. Consuming less salt and sodium over time can help prevent increased blood pressure. For our rice, we will need 1.5 cups of brown rice. Compared to white rice, brown rice is a whole grain and less processed. Choosing whole grain, high fiber foods can help decrease the risk of chronic diseases. You can choose instant brown rice to save a little bit of time, but just keep in mind, instant brown rice does have a little bit more sodium than regular brown rice. I'll be using some leftover rice that I made earlier this week. If you know you'll use it all before it spoils, making 1 large batch in the beginning of the week can save you some time later in the week. Lastly, we will need 1.5 cups of shredded cheese. Try to choose low fat to cut back on saturated fat. Oh, and one more thing, just measure out 2 cups of water because we will need that later. This will make about 8 servings, each serving being 1.5 cups. If you're adding canned beans to your recipe, just keep in mind that you may have more servings in the end, but the serving size will stay the same. Before we get started, let's go over some food safety. Wash your hands with warm water and soap for at least 20 seconds. Rinse your vegetables under cool running water, and if you are using any canned goods, be sure to drain them and rinse these too. Along with produce, we are using a raw meat today. To prevent any cross-contamination, you want to keep your raw meat and their juices away from fresh produce and your ready-to-eat foods. That means using different cutting boards and plates for fresh produce and raw meat. Cooking meat to the right temperature will kill bacteria, so there's no need to wash your meat before you cook it. Washing can actually cause bacteria found on the surface of your meat to get onto your countertops, your kitchen utensils, and even your ready-to-eat foods. After cutting raw meat, make sure you are washing all these surfaces and utensils with hot soapy water. Luckily for today, we won't need to cut our meat because it's already ground, but just be mindful of how you can stay as safe and clean as possible in your kitchen. With my hands, cutting board, and vegetables clean, it's time to start prepping our veggies, starting with our onion. Chop these to your preferred size. If you're only using a portion of the onion, don't peel the whole thing. Cut off the size that you need and peel that. The rest will last longer in the fridge with the skin on. Leftover cut onion will last for about 2 to 3 days if refrigerated in a tightly sealed container. Next is to chop our tomatoes. Today I'm using Roma tomatoes. Before chopping, you can cut off the top to remove the stem portion and seed the tomato. Depending on the type of tomato, these steps are optional. Then we have our lettuce. I'll be cutting these into shredded pieces by layering the leaves and cutting them at once. It's important to rinse these very well since dirt can get stuck between the leaves. And be sure to dry them completely before cutting. Now onto our jalapeno. If you're sensitive to heat, you can wear gloves to avoid direct contact. The heat from spicy peppers lives in the ribs and seeds, so we'll want to remove these. After cutting the pepper in half, carefully slide a sharp paring knife down the sides of the ribs. Then pop the ribs and seeds out while leaving the rest of the pepper intact. Be careful not to touch your face because the spice on your hands may irritate your skin and eyes. After this, slice and finely chop your pepper. Be sure to wash your hands and under your nails very thoroughly after you're done chopping. If you don't like spice, this vegetable is optional. You could switch it out for some sweet bell peppers. With our vegetables cut and set aside, it's time to cook our ground meat. We'll be doing this in a large skillet until brown or about 160 degrees Fahrenheit. The reason why we want to choose lean meats is because of the fat content. Dietary fats are important because they help support cell growth, help absorb some nutrients, and keep our body warm, among other things. But there are different types of fat, and some are healthier for you than others. Saturated fat is a solid fat mainly found in animal products. Having too much saturated fat in your diet can negatively affect your heart health. That's why we choose lean meats and a low-fat dairy. Unsaturated fats are considered to be healthy. Our body actually needs this fat in moderate amounts. So try to substitute solid fats for plant oils when possible. These healthy fats can also be found in certain fish, grain products, soybeans, nuts, and avocados. Once completely browned and cooked to 160 degrees Fahrenheit, drain off the fat. Do not pour grease down the drain. Pour it in a bowl and let it harden, then toss it in the trash. To remove extra grease, you can rinse the meat with warm water. With our meat cooked, it's time to add our cooked rice, water, onion, and chili powder. Cover and simmer this over low heat. It should take about 15 minutes, but check and stir it periodically. To see how much saturated fat is in a food item, check the nutrition facts label. Saturated fat should be limited to less than 10% of your total calories. An easy way to see if an item is high or low in a nutrient is to use the daily value percent. Try to keep the percentage for saturated fat as low as possible, 5% or less. If it's close to 20 or more, then the item is very high in saturated fat. Next, add the tomatoes and jalapeno. Stir occasionally and this will cook for about 2 to 3 minutes. Once it's done, turn off your stove top and it's time to plate everything. With everything cut, cooked, and cleaned, it's time to assemble. For one serving of 1.5 cups, try to use 1/4 cup to 1/2 cup of lettuce, 1 cup of rice mixture, and a generous sprinkle of cheese. I like putting everything in a bowl because it's a little bit easier to mix everything together, and I'm kind of a messy eater. You can have this for lunch or dinner for a well-balanced meal that includes most of the food groups. Be sure to refrigerate any leftovers within 2 hours. If you are packing this up for later, try to keep your lettuce and your rice mixture separate so the lettuce can stay crisp. You can pre-package smaller portion sizes in to-go containers to make them an easier grab and go option. This can help you make sure you are eating the right amount for you. And there you have it. Tasty taco rice salad. To save some money, find out which produce is in season in your area. These will probably be less expensive and a bit tastier since they're grown closer to home. If possible, check out your local farmers market too. Some markets have incentive programs that can help you stretch your SNAP food dollars. Maybe instead of lettuce, you might find some spinach. You can also incorporate some chopped zucchini, summer squash, or even some husked corn. If you do decide to add different foods to your tasty taco salad, like the beans that we mentioned before, the nutrition is going to be a little bit different to the original recipe's nutrition facts label. But don't let that stop you from getting creative with this recipe and also varying your protein. Along with meat, beans, and poultry, the protein group also includes seafood, eggs, nuts and seeds, and soy products like tofu. Varying your protein is super important because different protein foods offer different nutrients, and some have more saturated fat than others. But however you decide to make your tasty taco rice salad, I hope you enjoy it and thank you for joining me. And remember, small changes can make a big difference, so how else can you vary your protein and limit saturated fat?
Thank you for joining us today. We know the healthy choice isn't always the easiest choice, but small changes can make a big difference. Start today by getting involved with SNAP Ed New York. This program is free for those who qualify or receive SNAP benefits. We want to help you save time, save money, and eat healthy. Learn how SNAP Ed can make a difference in your life. For more information and to find your local program, visit snapedny.org. This material was funded by USDA's Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. SNAP. This institution is an equal opportunity provider.